Hi guys, it's Debbie, and today I would like to speak about Okja. It describes a situation in which an international meat processing company called Mirando, from the name of its evil CEO Lucy Mirando, portrayed by Tilda Swinton, is changing the game in the meat industry. As a matter of fact, the Mirando Corporation genetically modifies animals in order to create larger, better tasting portions of meat. The film focuses in particular on a new breed of so-called super pigs, so huge animals genetically created in labs by ruthless humans just to then grow them in filthy, unhealthy and unnatural conditions, but presented to the public as safe, well-treated and happy animals. Many years prior to the main events which take place in the film, a batch of these super pigs, at the time still piglets, were shipped off to various farmers all over the globe to study them, grow them and then send them back to their final destination, the slaughterhouse. Okja is the name of one of these super pigs raised by a Korean farmer on the top of a mountain far away from the influences of society. The farmer lives alone with his granddaughter Mija, portrayed by An Seo-hyun, which tightly bonds with Okja, passing all her time from dawn to dusk with her. But the terrible day arrives and Okja is dragged away from her family to be shown to the world and then just simply become packaged meat. But despite Mija's young age, scarce finances and little knowledge of the outside world, she refuses to let Okja be dragged away and runs after her on a desperate attempt to save her from the evil clutches of the Mirando Corporation. She is also helped on her mission by a group of animal rights activists led by Jay, portrayed by Dano. So the film follows Mija and her allies on a desperate attempt to save Okja and the other animals, while Lucy Mirando tries to keep her head above the water while struggling with her own personal issues. Now, when I first saw this film's trailer and the promotional snippets, I wasn't immediately attracted to it. Everything seemed rather far-fetched and I didn't immediately grasp the main concepts. And also during the first minutes of the film I still wasn't convinced, but as I kept on watching I appreciated the film more and more as it moved on. This film is, to put it in simple words, quite weird. It is a dystopian, horror, satirical, borderline dark comedy film with hints of drama, and there are many scenes we can't place in a specific category. Many characters create this comedic effect which appears nearly unnatural, standing out against the dark premises. But if we analyse the film as a whole, the general picture becomes more clear, because this continuous disturbing juxtaposition and jumping from one genre to the other underlines the satire, the absurdity of the whole situation, the chaos little Mija is thrown into without understanding anything about her surroundings. We laugh at some absurd situations and dialogues or shake our head in disgust at others without realising there is a very dark and disturbing realism to them. And the dark comedy is what makes this film so memorable. It makes certain scenes stick to our mind. It's what makes us appreciate the small details and cheer on our heroes and gives us all the reason to despise even more the antagonist. For example, Lucy Mirando is so evil, cold-hearted and money-thirsty that her attitude is portrayed in a nearly comedic way. She is a parody of all the larger selfish corporations which eat their way through the world with no regard or respect for the planet or society. And the same goes for Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Dr. Johnny Wilcox, a wannabe comedian and animal lover, which emphasises everything about his appearance in order to create a comedic effect. But he is so selfish, sad, arrogant and fake that the comedy introduced in the film again appears as a sad tribute to the make-believe shows we numbly absorb. Also, the heroes are portrayed in a nearly ridiculous manner with an exaggeration of their good intents, as they insist upon making their enemies wear their seatbelts. And in the midst of a highway attack, one of them confesses to refusing to eat anything in order to leave as little impact on the world as possible, including turning down one single cherry tomato. I personally really enjoyed Okja. I found it a touching, thought-provoking, moving story. At first I was worried it would only make us feel pity for one single animal, Okja, making us forget about all the other millions of slaughtered ones. But Okja turned out to be a symbol of the animal kingdom. She opened our eyes upon what really happens in the meat industry. She made us reflect upon our meal choices. And Mija represents the innocence of a young child which still hopes there is some good in the world and refuses to accept the evil within it. Mija was actually my favourite character. She represented the unbreakable bond with her pet and the determination and courage only a child like her could have. I also found the character of Jay, portrayed by Dano, very interesting, as he has one purpose in life, and that is of saving all animals from suffering suffering. And the moral code of his Animal Liberation Front is so deeply rooted into his soul that he will not compromise, tweak the regulations, or dare to step outside the boundaries of them in order to be as correct as possible. Tilda Swinton's Lucy Miranda was also a well-developed character with her self-centered attitude and greed seeping out of her pores, but which in certain moments fails to hide her insecure personality. I must admit instead that I was expecting something more from Jake Gyllenhaal, as in certain scenes he was quite good at portraying the lunatic and extrovert Dr. Johnny Wilcox, but in most of the others his screaming and arm waving was not enough to give us a convincing profile. An interesting thing I would like to speak about is the use of colour in this film. In Okja and Mija's little world on top of the mountainside, everything has vibrant, bright colours. The water of the streams appears nearly as an unnatural blue, the fruits are glowing red, Mija's cheeks shine bright in the sun, and even when she enjoys a meal with her grandfather in a makeshift derelict hut on the top of the mountain, everything appears inviting, cosy and delicious. But as soon as members of the Miranda Corporation appear, everything immediately becomes a dull blue, grey or black. Lucy Miranda has no colour or emotion in her appearance. She is flat, monochrome, boring. Everything in her world is of steel or glass, and the only element of nature we see in her offices is a fake electric plant. So when she wants to show Okja off to the world, she has to show her fake animal-loving, nature-loving attitude. She tries to dress everybody up in bright, colourful clothing, but while people bite chunks out of her packaged meat and dance to catchy music with pig ears holding colourful balloons, we can tell everything is extremely forced and a show is being put on. So because of the interesting portrayal of the topics, the engaging visual elements and the feeling of love and bonding with the animal kingdom, I would definitely recommend watching Okja, and it is now available on Netflix. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe for many more about films, TV series and books. See you soon. Bye.